Hi friends, welcome to Azure Content. This is part 36 in Azure Data Factory Real-Time Scenarios playlist. In this video, we are going to learn how to dynamically copy only the matching files from ADLS to SQL. So let's see the use case in details. So I have a file called location.csv where there's a column called locations, and inside that locations column there are few location present. So you can see there are 4 rows present here. First is California, then Argentina, then London, and then Washington. And I also have few CSV files present in my ADLS container, and you can see these are having the names as abc underscore argentina.csv, abc underscore london.csv, and then there's an Excel file, and there's a location.csv file. This is nothing but the same metadata file present for which this is the data. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to check the data present in locations.csv file. So whatever is the matching file names present in the ADLS container, I need to copy the data present in that file into a SQL table with the same name in my SQL DB. Okay, so basically we need to check that this particular string is present as the file name in any of the files or not, and then we need to copy that data of that file into SQL table. So you can see California is not present in any of the file names. And then coming to the second record, which is Argentina. So you can see any of the file names is having Argentina string or not. So you can see the first one is abc underscore Argentina. So the criteria is matching here, and we need to copy the data of this file into SQL table. So there should be a table created with the same name, abc underscore Argentina.csv. Okay. And then similarly, is London present? So you can see London is present, and it has to be copied as the table in SQL. And then coming to Washington, Washington is not present as any of the files in my ADLS. So only Argentina and London should be copied, and the table should be created for these two. So we should have abc underscore Argentina.csv and then abc underscore London.csv. Okay, so let's create a pipeline so that we can loop through the records present in locations.csv file, and also we need to loop through the file names present in my ADLS container, and then we need to match if the substring, which is this location, the records in location.csv, is present in the file names of ADLS or not. And if the condition matches, then we need to create a table and copy the data out of this file. Okay, so we need to do nested looping. That means two level of looping. So we need to create two pipelines for that. So let's try to implement the same in Azure portal. So you can see this is my storage account, Anu demo storage, where I have a container called demo container, and inside this demo container I have this location.csv file, which is the metadata file where all the location names is present in the location column. Okay, so if I preview the data, this is how it looks. Okay, and these are the files which needs to be copied. If there would have been any file called say def underscore California, then that also has to be copied into the table, but only Argentina dot csv and London dot csv is present, and these are the two files that we need to copy because these locations are present in this location.csv. But other than that, these two are not present, and even this Excel file, it's not matching the uh, string present in the location.csv file. So this also will not be copied. Okay, so let's create the pipelines. So we need to create two pipelines for performing two looping. So you can see one should iterate through the locations present in location.csv file, and the other should have a loop on the file names present in the ADLS container. So the first pipeline, I will name it as master pipeline. So this pipeline will be calling another pipeline. So let me name it as master pipeline. And in this pipeline, we will loop through the records present in location.csv files. So let's create a lookup activity, and let me drag it here, and let's create a dataset pointing to ADLS Gen 2, and the metadata file is a delimited text file. I already have a linked service pointing to ADLS storage. So now let's navigate to the location.csv file. So here in the demo folder or demo container, I have this locations.csv file, and let me import schema, and let's run this lookup activity so that we can see the output, which is the records present in locations.csv files. So let's see. Okay, so it is only giving first row because I have not unchecked this first row only option. So let's run the pipeline again. So let's wait for the execution to be completed. Yeah, so lookup execution is succeeded. Let's see. So you can see there are 4 records here. So in the value array, there are 4 JSONs where location property is holding the value as California, Argentina, London, and Washington. Okay. So there are 4 rows that got fetched out of that location.csv file. Okay. So we are good here. Now what we need to do is we need to loop through the records present as in the output of lookup activity. So to loop through the record, we need to use for each activity, which will help us to perform the looping. So in the items, we will point to the output of lookup activity. Okay, so activity lookup dot output dot value, because value is the array which is holding all the JSONs, which is nothing but the record present in the location.csv file. Okay, so it will loop through all the records one by one, and then that particular each of the locations we need to pass on to the next pipeline. So which is the child pipeline. So in order to call the child pipeline, we need to use execute pipeline activity. Okay, so I'm dragging that, and then we will create a new pipeline called child pipeline. Let me name it as child pipeline. Okay, let me zoom it a little bit. Okay, so we named it as child pipeline, and here we will create a parameter called location, and this parameter will be reflected in this execute pipeline activity. Here you can see it automatically is coming here as a parameter because we created the pipeline parameter in the child pipeline. That child pipeline we are calling in this execute pipeline activity. So the parameter which we created in the child pipeline is reflecting here, and the value for it we have to pass it here. So what is the value that we will pass is nothing but each of the locations that is coming in the loop one by one. Okay, so what is the property that we need to uh, point to is nothing but locations. So on in the locations property, we will have these values one by one in each of the iteration. So since we have pointed to the value array in this item property, okay, so we are pointing to the value array here in the items. So this items means the array of all the values, and if we need the value one by one inside for each, then we need to have item dot, what was the property name? It's locations. Okay, you can see the property name is locations. Okay, so this is what I have given here, item dot locations. So here what I can do is I can have it in the curly braces, which is also called string interpolation, to convert it into proper string. Okay, so now each of the location, that is California and Argentina, London and Washington, will go to the next pipeline one by one. Okay, through the for each iterations. So now inside this child pipeline, what we will do is we will have another loop that we were talking about. We will create a loop to uh, get the file names present in the ADLS account. So for that we will use something called get metadata activity. So here we will point to the container level so that we get all the file names present in the container. So let me create delimited text kind of data set, and I pointed to the same linked service, and this time I will just point to the demo container. Okay, and I didn't point to any folder or any file. And now we will use child items to fetch the names of all the uh, files present in the demo container. So here we have a parameter So while running or debugging this pipeline, it's asking for a value for that parameter. So I'm just going to give a dummy value for now. We just need to run this get metadata activity. It is not using that parameter for now, but we need to pass the value for it while debugging. So I have passed it. So let's wait for the output to appear, um, so that we can see all the file names present in this demo container. So it should give 5 results. One is output folder, other ones are files, abc underscore Argentina, then London, then this Excel file, and then locations.csv file. So the execution is completed. Let's check the output. So you can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 JSONs present in the child items array. And if you see, abc underscore Argentina is of file type, London is of file type, then this is also file type, location.csv is file type, and output is a folder type, which is nothing but this one. Okay, so now what we will do is we will iterate through each of the file names again. So for that, we will use for each activity again, and this time we need to point to the name, okay, to fetch the file names. So first of all, let me drag this for each activity, and we will pass get metadata output again, which is nothing but child items array. Okay, so we are pointing to this array so that it will iterate through the loop one by one. Okay, and what is the property name which is holding the file names? It is name property. Okay, so in the name property, it is having the file name values. So inside this, what we are going to check is we need to check if the location present in the parameter. So this parameter will pass the location one by one, right? So for the first iteration of master pipeline, it will give California as the location. So for first iteration, it will have a check with each of the files coming out of get metadata activity if California is matching this abc underscore Argentina.csv or not. If it's not matching, it is not going to copy any data. So basically there will be two looping. First one will be in the master pipeline level and in the child pipeline level. Okay. So first in the master pipeline level, first iteration will have California as the parameter. Okay. So for this California in the child pipeline, it will check for each of the files. Okay. So if abc underscore Argentina is matching California or not, and then if abc underscore London is matching California or not, if this Excel file is matching California or not, and if this location.csv is matching California or not. Okay, so since it is not matching, it will not have any copy of any of the data. Okay, now uh, this loop will be over. Now for the second loop, it will try to check with this Argentina. Okay, in the master pipeline, this is the loop, and this parameter is getting passed in the child pipeline. And then again, Argentina will be checked with abc underscore Argentina.csv, then it will be checked with abc underscore London.csv, then Excel, and then location, out of which it will have the check passed with one of the CSV file, and this data should be copied into the SQL. Similarly, it will have another loop for London and then Washington for each of the files here. Okay, so that's how we have to build the pipeline. So inside for each, we will have an if condition that will check if the file names is having this string or not. Okay, so the file names we are getting in the item dot name property. So what we are going to do is we are going to use something called contains function. You can see it here in the functions. You can search for contains, and it is a function which will return true if the dictionary contains a key, list contains value, or string contains substring. For example, it will return true if you can see ACA is present in this string, which is ABACABA. Okay, if it is present, then it will return true. So we are using contains, and here if the file name will contain, if the file name will contain the parameter coming from the master pipeline, then we have to return true and it will get inside the true block. So the file name is present in the name property which we are getting from the get metadata, right? And this we are treating as items in the for each. So we need to use item dot name. Okay, so that's what we have to use here. So contains item dot name. So this is the property inside which we have to check if it is matching the pipeline parameter, which is going to get the location one by one from the master pipeline. So here I'm going to use the pipeline parameter, which is this one. Okay. So if this string will have this substring, then it will go inside the for each if condition true block, and then we will have the copy activity that will copy the data from the file to the table. Okay, so let me use string function here so that it will convert this into proper string. Okay, let me use the same here as well, just to make sure that there is no data type mismatch. And inside true block we will have a copy activity so that it copies the data from source to sink. So what is the source? Source is nothing but ADLS container. So here we need to create a parameterized dataset. So let me create that using CSV format, and here it will point to again demo container, and file name we will parameterize. Let me not import schema for this, and let me open the dataset again, and here we have to create a parameter called file name, and let me use that parameter here. Okay, so it automatically defined this expression dataset dot file name, and here for that parameter we need to pass the value. So what value we need to pass? It is nothing but again item dot name, which will have the file name. Okay, so you can see here we will use @item dot name, and let me use string interpolation here. And now in the sink, let me create a dataset pointing to SQL table. So let me point it, and then we need to dynamically create the table name. So let me click on OK and open the dataset again. Let me create a parameter for this saying table name. The same we will use it here. So schema, we can use DBO schema, which is the default schema, and we will point to the table name here. And for the value, again we will use @item dot name, which will have the same name as the file name. Okay, so it will create table with the same name as the file name from the source. So to create the table automatically, we have to use this auto create table. Okay, so I am clicking on that. Now if before running the pipeline, I will show you that there is no such table called abc underscore argentina.csv and abc underscore london.csv as of now in my database. So let it get expanded. Yeah, so you can see there is no such table called ABC underscore Argentina and ABC underscore London, which is present in the storage account. Okay. Okay. So once we run this pipeline, it should create two tables in the SQL database. One is argentina.csv and another one is london.csv. Okay. So let me run this master pipeline. Okay. So let me hit on debug and let's check the execution. Okay. So it is saying the for each loop will run sequentially, okay? Because we are hitting debug. If we would have published and hit on trigger, then it would have run parallelly, okay? Yeah. So execution is in progress. Yeah. So you can see the lookup activity is giving the four records, which is nothing but the locations present in location.csv. And then it is going to loop through each of the locations, and the locations will be passed on to the child pipeline one by one. So the first iteration for master pipeline is completed. Let's check the output for that. So you can see copy activity has not run for this because if you see the first location is nothing but California, which did not match any of the files. Okay. Now coming to the second loop, which is also completed for master pipeline, you can see there's one copy data activity which ran and it copied the data. Okay, so it has copied the data from ADLS to SQL. And if we see the execution, okay, it has read 61 bytes of data and one row has been read and it has been written to the sink. Okay, okay, let's go back. Yeah, so you can see all four iteration has been completed. For the third iteration as well, it has copied the data, and let's check the fourth iteration. Okay, yeah. So for the fourth iteration, it has not executed the copy activity. So for two of the iterations, that is Argentina and London, it would have copied the data from the ADLS to SQL table. So let me go again to SQL database and let me hit on refresh for the tables, and we will see if the two tables got created or not. Okay. Yeah, so you can see Argentina and London.csv got created, and if we check the output, select star from this table, and if we try to match the data present in abc underscore argentina.csv, you can see the data is matching. It has one row and this is the data. And if we check london.csv data, okay, yeah, so these are the three records. Let me validate the same here. Let me run this. Yeah, so you can see the data is matching. So it created the two files successfully, which was matching in the location.csv file. Okay, so basically if the file names contains the string present in location.csv file, it should copy to the SQL table, and that's what our pipeline did. Okay, so I hope you learned how to dynamically copy only the matching records from ADLS to SQL using two level of pipelines, where master pipeline is calling the child pipeline. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you find it helpful. Please hit on like button and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done it yet. Thank you.